Welcome back to another video. Today's one, we're going to start working down here. See how we go. Alright, so first thing we want to do is get this dust cap off. And then we want to get the split pin out. There we go, he's out. With the world's biggest shifter. Cockroach, a few spider eggs behind there, but that's all right. Get that bearing off, whack him in there. Well, again, we're going with a change of plan. I was going to put the rotor and the new bearings and everything on, and I thought, what's the point? We may as well do the rubbers and stuff as well while we're here. So I looked at the ball joint and I thought, that one's in pretty good condition. Maybe I don't need to do those, but went and had a look at the other side and it is completely shagged, so ball joints will be redone. We'll also redo the tie rod ends, the steering boots because they're no good either. We'll redo the sway bar link and of course the lower control arm as well. But I have been getting rid of all the dirt and grime that's been under here, and it's actually green paint. Didn't realise that that was painted, but I'll finish cleaning that up and make that probably black with some stone guard on it or something. I have managed to clean up one caliper with a wire brush and a bit of brake clean. That's come up all right. I'm not going to paint that or anything, but the goal now is to finish cleaning up under here and start pulling things off, ready for the new rubbers and stuff that I've ordered. Oh, far out, that was hard. Ah, it's a turny one. Got a nut from there. Yes, we do. Okay, so what I ended up doing was going around to the driver's side of the car and taking the top nut off the sway bar link and just let that lift up, which then comes off and we can get that sway bar link out. So that's another job done. Next, I guess, I might tackle that thing. And then we'll go to the big one. The one that ain't going to come apart, the ball joint. But we'll see how we go. Okay, so we've got this big fella in here. And he is a big fella. He happens to be a 1 3/16 inch. So how we go. Yeah, it's freaking tight too. Mama. Might need an extension on. That's tight. What's the Newton meters on that sucker? It's going to strip the bolt, isn't it? WD. Maybe we'll let him soak for a bit, I reckon. And let's try the ball join. We'll undo the bolt and see what happens from that. It's going to be like that, eh? I don't know what's going to happen with that spring, so I'm going to leave that nut in there because I'm scared. Well, the one that I thought was going to take forever, I think we got it. I think I got it. Yep, I did. And it's the one that I didn't think I'd have any trouble with. Is the one that's keeping it on. The ball joint is split. But I have to get that off. How do I do that? Need some thinking time to get this big bolt off. Well, I got the thing undone. I did have to put a bit of heat on it. There is a bit of smoke still coming off. So it's cracked loose. I'll let that cool down and then I'll pop it off and then we'll get the lower control arm off. And there you go. Lower control arm is out. I did end up doing undo that bolt there and giving it a tap to loosen it, and then took the bolt out for the lower control arm, and that allowed that to slide out of there. But my best friend on doing that was the jack handle on the end of the ratchet, because they were bloody tight, and it looks like that had blue Loctite on it, so I'll have to do that again. The only thing left to get off is that tie rod end. Alright, for anyone playing at home who wants to see how I got this thing off, this is how I did it. Whether it works now because I'm on camera, I don't know, but this is the inner tie rod removal tool, and I'm going to stick a 1/2 inch extension in that hole there. And I'm going to put that in there like that for the moment, and then I get my ratchet and we're going to put it on. And if I just move the camera back so you can see a bit better, then I will attempt. So, to get that on that, get that, so it wants to go like that, and then get a gigantic bit of leverage and try and crack the sucker. It's just hitting. It moved. See, it is slowly undoing. Might be able to get rid of that big ass pole now. Still need that little bit of leverage with the handle. There we go, it's got him. This one is a hell of a lot tighter than the other side. This side is incredibly tight. That's got him. That's definitely got him. Oh, that's a tight son of a beach ball, that one. Bada boom, bada bing, off. While everything's off, we'll clean. I also took the strut off too. I don't have the spring or anything out. Contemplating whether I replace the shocks while it's off. Probably the better thing to do. But before that goes back on, I'll clean it up, make it nice, as well as under here. So I'll continue cleaning with that, make that nice and brand new, and then still waiting for parts to arrive. So while doing that, we'll make it look newish. Look at that, eh? That is a clean with the wire brush and a bit of brake clean. How clean has that come up? Yeah, still got a bit of crap up in there, but that is where the strut goes, and I'll clean that up a little bit more, and then we'll get some black paint down on it and some stone guard. Start putting stuff back together. And look at this, I think it's a radius rod. That has come up so clean. I don't think that even needs to be painted. Sway bar, yes. That, no. And also the old steering boot makes us a good dust cover over the steering shaft so you don't get crap in that. Well, let's keep moving forward. Here we go again with the microphone not working, so back to voiceovers. So not that you can see too well through the sun glare, but the whole wheel arch has been painted black and stone guarded and looks quite respectable, if I do say so myself. Now it's probably a little on the shiny side, but it doesn't matter. Once we get a wheel under there, you'll never know. I have had some parts come in, some lower control arms and the sway bar links. Now I went for complete control arms because bushes and ball joints together were pretty close to what the cost of a complete control arm was, so that's what I went for. Now I did measure the gauge of the steel and thickness and everything, and it all seems pretty much the same, other than that little weld-on bracket behind that ball joint. It's just slightly different shape. Other than that, I can't pick what the difference is. So that's turned out to be a good decision, because I don't have a press to press in bushes or press out ball joints and in ball joints, yada yada yada. B, well, there is no B, but it worked out quite well. Here are the sway bar bushes. Now this new one are slightly longer than what was originally on the car, but turns out it's not a problem. They go in just fine. And you'll see that very shortly. I put it into the control arm before I put it back on the car. No particular reason, that's just what I ended up doing. And that can be seen right here. That is in position, ready to go. Now that's just tightened down on the underneath bolt, and once the arm's in, I will put the radius rod and the sway bar in and tighten it all up to whatever it needs to be. That all went together without too much issues. Obviously, new control arm, new bushes. It was tight getting it into the mounting spot and then trying to line up that bolt hole to get that bolt through. Everything required a bit of a tap, tap, tap with a hammer, but everything bolts up fine. There's no alignment issues with anything. Everything seems to be where it needs to be. So let's wait for some more parts to arrive. Some more parts have shown up. This is all the tie rod stuff and the steering boots. So it doesn't come with the clips, so you have to get it off your old one. So I need that small clip on there that goes on the end of the dust boot. So I'll pull this apart. I have it marked at the length, so I'll pull that apart, put it back together without the clip, and then we can set the same length to the new one, but with that clip on for the boot. Let's do that. I got that clip off, no issues. Then I thought, let's find the grease gun so I can, grease up the tie rod end for when we put it all together. But look how long it's been since I've used the grease gun. I think that needs a good clean before I go any further. All right, now it's time to put a bit of grease in this sucker. All right, that's nice and full. Now we can get it onto the rest of the tie rod. Now I have put the boot on first, because once the tie rod's on, there's no way that's going over. So get that on first. So we'll get it started on there and see how close we end up. Tie rods, well, this part of it anyway, is very similar size to the other one. The only difference that I've noticed is that that thread on the end there, on the original one, is a tiny bit longer, but basically the same size. So let's move that out of the way. Move this down a touch so I can see the end. Alright, so I need to be longer. Quite a bit. So wind it out, maybe that much. The other thing I've noticed with this one as well is this one is just completely round, so nothing to undo it and hold it. But this one lets you actually get a tool on it to be able to tighten it or loosen it, so that's a good thing. Bit more, it's still too short, so we'll go that much and see where we are. When we're kind of in the ballpark, then we'll do some more precise measuring. So still a bit more. See, that now is pretty close. But as I said, the threads on the ends there are different, so I'm going to line up from the end of that and the end of that, and that should give me the same length as the old one. Well, I'm going to fine tune that and be back in a jiffy. Well, that is now on and as tight can be. Quick one, when I took the old one off, it never had one of those locking washers or whatever they're called on, but the new kit did come with one, so I have put that on. And if you can see at the back there, that's just bent over those tabs there. Put a bit of grease on the steering shaft, the lubrication. Yes, this tie rod is sticking out further than the ball joint because I do have the wheel at full lock to the right for more access here. But the next thing I have to do is get that boot on over the shaft, and I don't think that's going to be an easy task. The first thing is, if you look at this old boot, it has that hole on the edge, which is for that tube there, and that goes through to the other side. I'm pretty sure it's just a vent tube, but this new one does not have anything, so it's going to have to tuck in there and hopefully when it gets the cable ties around there, it all locks in nicely and hopefully doesn't let any dust in. But we'll suss that out. This hole is a lot smaller than the original, but I'm guessing that's because it's new. But I'm going to have to jump into the engine bay and give this a crack. So, wish me luck. Okay, it took a while, but I got it on, and I also got that vent tube thing in, but I don't have any cable ties, and the kit didn't come with any cable ties, so I'll get some cable ties tomorrow, zip that on. I've got that clamp on 98% of the way, but I don't want to go any further and make that fall off there, because that was very hard to get on being by yourself. Needed a lot of stretching to get over, but I did it eventually. Like, originally I got in the engine bay, put the top on, but I couldn't get the bottom on, and that was never going to happen. So I came out, lay on the dirt that's all over this floor, and got the bottom on, then went in the engine bay, held it from the underneath, got a screwdriver and pried it over the top, and that's how I was able to get it on. So it's on. Just waiting for the stuff for the strut, and that can go back on, and this side is ready for the caliper and new rotors and everything to go on, but still waiting for parts for the struts. So again, waiting on parts, but it's starting to look bloody good. All right, it turns out you can't put all this together without putting the strut in. So I've loosened off the sway bar link and that bar there, so I can get the lower control arm down, so I can fit the completed strut back in place. Now you would have seen that in the last video on rebuilding these, so that's ready to go back in. But when you come up top here, you need to be careful because it will go in all different ways, so you need to know which way it's going to go in. Now I've got the old one here, and because I did paint, I did get that little mark there, which is that hole there. So I know that it goes in that way. And if you come to the top of the strut here, the bit with the writing is on a different place. So I need to work out which is the correct orientation for that. So after working out what orientation you need your top hat to be, put your bolts in to just hold it. And if you come back down bottom side, you'll end up something like this. So you kind of need to press the bottom of the lower control arm down, get the ball joint into the ball joint hole and the tie rod into the tie rod hole, and start doing things up. Now, before I go any further, I can see that my alignment is not quite right. So this spindle is facing in a little bit. So before I bolt that up, I'm going to adjust that before it all goes together, so it makes it a bit easier. So I'll undo that nut and give that 1 or 2 turns out and see where it's at. Now, unfortunately, it's a bit dark because I can't find my light. So I've got so much mess in here, I can't find anything, but this will have to do. Okay, so I ended up having to go in, not out, so I went 4 turns in by eye, but we'll have more of an idea when we get the rotor on. So let's zip up those 2 bolts and then we'll look at greasing some bearings. All right, they are now all tight. We do need to tighten the top, so let's not forget that. Okay, now we need to open our new box of one 289mm rotor. And it'd help if the box wasn't stuck. Well, what's going on here? Is it taped? Well, that's silly. Why would you tape it? That's just pain in the bum. There we go. Wires have got timber. I don't know. And here we go. Now, I'm pretty sure I mentioned it before, but if I didn't, the rotors come with the bearing races in it, so let's slap it on. Our old mate who had the car before me decided to silicone the grease caps to the inside of the wheel. So I've got to clean the silicone off that before I can put it back on because it looks crappy. Unfortunately, that is very hard to get off. So that's how that's going to have to stay. Maybe down the track I will replace them with new ones, but that'll do for the moment. Let's get it on anyway. See, that turns nicely. Wipe off some of that excess grease. So much rubbish in here, it's not funny. Need to clean up good. So all that's left now is to get that caliper on. Okay, so here's our caliper. Cleaned up with brake clean and a wire brush just to get that aluminium look back to it. So no doubt everyone knows how to do pads and blah blah blah, so I'm going to just use a G-clamp, push that piston back in so the new pads will go in. Okay, new pads. DB1085 SCA for super cheap auto. Now, if you haven't put these in before, your little springs here sit inside that little window there. So you don't want them sticking out, because you're going to rattle. So it's pop it in like that on an angle. Get it right and push from the bottom, done. Same again with the outer. So get your clips right on an angle, slide it in, done. And on your back side here, you can see your springs are nicely located inside the little window here, and that's good to put on the car. Okay, so what you haven't seen off camera is trying to put the hose back in to here. Didn't fit because when I was trying to get the shocks out of this, they were so hard to get out that I severely deformed the bracket that holds that hose. So I've just had to reshape it. It ended up being 5mm too short and couldn't get the little plastic grommet in. So let's have another go. Now that the caliper's on, this side is pretty much buttoned up, other than the steel brake lines, which won't go back in until after the engine bay is painted. So that's done. Now, that has been one major pain in the ass job. That has taken forever. It's now February, and I started this in December. But it's done, and if we just wander around to the other side, you'll see that side done as well. So both sides done. New rotors, new calipers, new shocks, new springs, new ball joints, new tyre rod ends, new sway bar links, yada yada yada, all good. And if you have a quick look at my quick alignment that I did, it's pretty straight. Maybe a slight in still on this wheel, but as I said before, it will need a wheel alignment, and I'm guessing when I put the steering wheel back on the car too, it's not going to be straight either, so we'll worry about that later. Now over on this side, if your keen eyes have observed, while I was cleaning up the underside of here, I did remove that Commodore sculpt that is there. No, it's not perfect. Still needs some fine work on there to get it smooth, but that's pretty much belted out, and it's ready to be finished when we finish the engine bay. Well, I hope a lot of you have made it this far. This is where I'm going to wrap the video up, because this has taken a monumental amount of time to get done. As I mentioned in the last video, things just haven't gone right from the moment I started pulling this thing apart. It's fought me every step of the way, but it's now done. So the only thing really left to do is test fit one of those aeros, and it should fit, but we need tyres on those wheels anyway. I don't have tyres, so ready to start on the next thing that's going to fight me to the death. What will that be? I don't know, but I'm done here. So I hope you enjoyed this video. From me, it's a big thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Ciao, ciao.